Tommy Lloyd is the winningest coach in college basketball history through his first 2 years as a head basketball coach, but both teams flamed out in the tournament. He took a myriad of steps to make sure that doesn't happen again. What are the keys to success for a deep postseason run for this University of Arizona basketball team? Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right. And thanks for making this your first listen of the day. All right. Arizona basketball under Tommy Lloyd has been overall a big-time success. I'm not breaking any news. You are all smarter than me. You know that. The numbers speak for themselves. 61-11 in his first 2 years. And on top of that, he's brought a fun style of play back to the desert, something that is very akin to Lute Olson when Lute Olson was here. But come the NCAA tournament, got to call kind of a spade, and his teams have been beaten up. I hate saying that. There's really no other way around it. His teams have been pushed around. Even the team with Ben Mather and Coloco, they probably should have been bounced in this the round of 32. And on top of that, the first round, they were tied with Wright State. And then obviously they got smoked by Houston in that second round. Now, this past year, I thought the team overachieved for sure, but came into the NCAA tournament as a 2 seed and then got punked by Princeton. Yes, punked by Princeton. That is never anything that you want to hear. And a big reason why is, and I think it's just fair to say, two things. The team wasn't tough, and not only was the team not tough, they didn't have a lot of guys that just embraced the moment. I hate saying it, that's just the way it is. Didn't have a lot of guys that embraced that moment. And not only did they not embrace that moment, nobody really wanted that shot. And that's something you can't have. I mean, you had a Julius Tubelis who I think it's fair to say is kind of a pseudo superstar in that puts up big numbers, but how many of those are really impactful? Probably not a ton. And that's obviously not a great thing to have in your best player. So Tommy Lloyd took inventory of the roster. And again, we got to give Tommy Lloyd a lot of credit on this because not many coaches who've gone 61-11 would look at a roster and say, all right, we got to do X, Y, Z. We got to continue to build this. We got to do that, et cetera, et cetera. As a matter of fact, very few coaches would do that. Sean Miller is definitely not doing that if he's 61-11. That's just the way it is. But the first order of business was you had to get tougher. And when I say tougher, you had to get tougher across the board. And by tougher across the board, I mean just that. You had, with a Keshad Johnson coming in right now, he replaces a Julius Tubelis. Let's talk about Keshad Johnson then for a second. 6'7", 225 pounds. Awesome athlete. Not only is he an awesome athlete, he's also a dude who is incredibly tough. 13-4 in the national title game. And when you look at him too, he's a dude who watch him and he can get up and down the court and he's not going to take any guff from anybody. We like seeing that around here in these parts because that was not something that this past year's team had much of. He can run the court. He dunks in traffic. And again, a guy that he's probably not going to be somebody that is going to score 20 points per game, but I think he also will be someone who, like I said, embraces the moment right there because he's got a history right there. There's a lot to like about that. So I think, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Keshad Johnson becomes statistically the best player on the team. Now, might say, Mike, he averaged 7 and 5 at San Diego State. You would be true. You would be accurate. But San Diego State also plays, and this isn't diss to San Diego State because they were just in the national title game. But San Diego State also plays a style of first one to 40 wins. Tommy Lloyd is looking to score in the hundreds. Keshad Johnson is going to get 100 points 100 points. He's going to get double figures just by running the court. And I think that's something that was probably pretty easy to sell him on. Good hands, good finisher, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a big, big part of this. And then obviously you lose Azuolas Tubelis, but meh. All right. Then the other one was, and again, I know he was kind of a lightning rod and he wasn't a bad player, but Kerr Kriisa. Kerr Kriisa was, let's just call it what it is. Kerr Kriisa was okay. Arizona should be able to do better at the point guard position than Kerr Kriisa. Not only should they be able to do better at that point guard position than Kerr Kriisa, they should be able to do significantly better. Now, everybody liked Kerr Kriisa when it came to, his antics and whatnot. I found him kind of silly, but whatever. But the big thing was that Kerr Kriisa physically was just not tough out there on the court. He liked to talk a lot. He liked to talk a big game. But at the end of the day, generally, Kerr Kriisa was going to go 3 of 12 from the field with 6 assists, 2 turnovers, and play crummy defense. But he's going to let you know he's going to let you know about it. I was pretty much out on Kerr Kriisa his second year that he really got extended playing time. Just didn't think he was that good. Plus, I think that Kerr Kriisa limited the upside of your team. So out with Kerr Kriisa, in with Kylan Boswell. Now, Kylan Boswell was on the team this past year, and I think it was fairly clear to most by the end of the year that Kylan Boswell was better than Kerr Kriisa. But Tommy Lloyd had a real loyalty to Kerr Kriisa, and, a lot of people got it. I get it. But there probably shouldn't have been that loyalty. And not only should there probably not have been that loyalty, I think Arizona is going to be better for moving on right there. Because I think Boswell, I think people are getting a little ahead of themselves. I don't think he's nearly as good as some people are trying to make it out. He's not a one-and-done type player or anything like that, or a two-and-done type guy. Even though he might leave, that doesn't mean that he's really a two-and-done. The best thing about him, though, is that he's able to get to that he's able to make the three, something Kerr Kriisa couldn't. And it's not going to be just shooting threes and nothing else in between. He's going to be able to get to the bucket a little bit. He's going to be able to stress the defense. And then at that other spot right there, Courtney Ramey is out, and I have no problem with Courtney Ramey. I found Courtney Ramey to be a better player than Kerr Kriisa, and Courtney Ramey had some big shots here. But come NCAA tournament time, Courtney Ramey was also another dude that was nowhere to be found in that last minute. You're going to probably be replacing him with Jaden Bradley. Now, a lot of Arizona fans remember Jaden Bradley was a 5-star kid out of high school, almost chose Arizona, went to Alabama for a year, averaged 6 and 3, then moved on, obviously. He rectified his decision and came to the University of Arizona. Smart man right there. But overall, though, Bradley specializes in getting in the paint. That's something that Arizona had none of last year. And when I tell you they had none of that, they had absolutely none of that. He's not a great shooter, but he's going to look to stress the defense by getting into the paint, looking to score his, chip it out to others. A lot of different things to like about him, quite frankly, because again, he's got a lot of talent, and I think Tommy Lloyd's going to be able to unleash that. And not only unleash that, I think people are going to understand pretty quickly that this is a guy that is going to be a very nice fit right there. But again, both these dudes, a backcourt of Kylan Boswell and Jaden Bradley is infinitely tougher than a backcourt of Courtney Ramey and Kerr Kriisa. It just is. All right, now we're going to talk about some more of the toughness, then talk about kind of the overseas trip we had. But first, FanDuel. All right, you all know the drill right here with FanDuel. FanDuel.com /LockedOnCollege. This is where you want to go right now. We're in the middle of football season, or not the middle, but football season has just started. We have an entire football season in front of us, and that is going to be fun. And not only do we have an entire season of football in front of us, not only do we have an entire season of football in front of us, we have a lot of different bets to go. And what is more enjoyable than betting on something that is going to be fun? And even if you don't like the game, you got some little action on it, becomes a little bit more interesting. I think we all would agree on that. But check it out, FanDuel.com/lockedon. This is the best time to get in here. Get in right now because, again, this is where everybody's at. Your money's good there, as you know. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. All right, we're talking about toughness on the Arizona basketball team right here. Toughness, my friend. Now, the next thing we got to talk about is this. We need to talk about Caleb Love. Now, when Caleb Love committed to the U of A from North Carolina, there were a lot of question marks about Caleb Love, and quite frankly, I didn't get it. A lot of people looked at his shooting percentages and just said, nope, don't want him. And I said that was silly. I wanted Caleb Love because, first of all, I have a lot of faith in Tommy Lloyd and what he's able to do. Not only do I have a lot of faith in what Tommy Lloyd is able to do, he's a better coach than Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis at North Carolina essentially ran two sets, a high pick and roll and then just an ISO. That was it. It was very much of an NBA type style, which is cool. But in college, unless you have guys that are really able to execute that, it's not going to work. And what Caleb Love ended up doing was pounding the ball 6-7 times before attacking the hoop. It's not something that you really need him to be doing right there. You need Caleb Love to be looking to – you need Caleb Love to 2-3 dribbles and then hit the back – 2-3 dribbles – either pull up, hit the mid-range, whatever the case may be. And that's going to be the deal at Arizona. Now, NBA folks know that Caleb Love can score. The big thing is, what can he do from an efficiency standpoint? Because the naysayers are right about something that it is nice to have an efficient, that it is nice to be efficient right there. Then, again, that's another thing. Not really breaking any news right there. You want these dudes to be efficient. And that's where I think Tommy Lloyd's going to come in. I think you're going to see maybe not quite as many points, maybe not the 17 points per game at North Carolina that Caleb Love had, but I think you're going to see something well in that 14, that 15-point realm, something like that. And I think that Tommy Lloyd knows exactly what he wanted. There's a reason that he recruited him and he prioritized him the first time around, and there's a reason that he prioritized him the second time around as well, because he knows that he can work some magic with Caleb Love that Caleb Love's probably not ever had before. So if it was up to me, and again, it's not up to me, that would be your starting perimeter, and I'd bring Pelle Larsson off the bench. I don't like Pelle Larsson as a starter. He sucked last year as a starter, and he was much, much more comfortable, obviously, coming off the bench. So that's what I would go with when it comes to that. Now, the next thing, though, that we also need to talk about is Pelle Larsson. Listen, I was wrong on Pelle Larsson big picture. My bad, Pelle. Hashtag my bad, Pelle. But Pelle Larsson is also still limited. Pelle Larsson cannot dribble the basketball, and that will always limit somebody. If you can't dribble the basketball, you're always going to be limited in how good you can be. Again, not breaking any news there. But what Pelle can do is this. Pelle is a good athlete. Pelle is strong. Pelle is a willing defender. Pelle does a lot of things really, really well. Dribbling the ball and shooting, running off screens is just not one of them. So I would just like to see Pelle be able to cut down on the turnovers, some of the brain-dead turnovers that he has, and look fully engaged the entire game, and I believe that he can do that. But I also believe, though, that there is a clear talent differential between those first three, especially with the basketball and Pelle. He's probably going to start. Tommy Lloyd loves him some Pelle Larsson, but he's also going to be somebody that I think is going to take a little bit of time to mature into that role, whatever it is. But I like Pelle. Pelle's good. Now, up front, our guy, Oumar Ballo. Now, this kind of dovetails into the overseas trip. Not happy with our guy, Oumar Ballo. Leader of men, Oumar Ballo. Leaders of men work hard in the offseason, and it did not look in the offseason like Oumar Ballo worked hard. We don't like that. And not only do we not like that, we really don't like that. A big part of it is, again, that you would like Umar Ballo to be in the best shape of his life. He came into that overseas trip and he was woefully out of shape. Again, not breaking any news right there. You saw it, I saw it, we all saw it. He was woefully out of shape. You don't like that. And that's an issue. You need Umar Ballo to be able to put his best foot forward, pardon the pun, and he didn't do that. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing Montias Krivas, Mount Krivas as we call him. I think you're going to see him start to take some of those minutes. And not only do I think you're going to see him start to take some of those minutes, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he takes quite a few of those minutes because Krivas is good. Krivas is a load up front. And not only is he a load up front, he's also someone who is he's just a big dude. But basketball also looks like it comes a little bit more naturally to him than Umar Ballo. Ballo better be ready because if Ballo's not ready, he's going to lose a considerable amount of minutes. And I could see by the end of the season, Krivas really getting into that 50-50 minute realm with him. Krivas was very impressive on this overseas trip. All right, now we're going to talk about some of the observations from this overseas trip and what we saw coming back here on Locked On Wildcats. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. As always, I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, it's next step up here right here. We're going to talk about what we saw overseas. And the first thing is, obviously, Umar Ballo not in shape. Now, it's not the end of the world because he's got time, but when you've got a player who's always struggled with his weight, that's always a crummy thing to see. Montias Krivas, very good, very impressive. There's really not anything to say about it. Not a great athlete, but he's got very much of that Tommy Lloyd Gonzaga type feel to him. He's going to be good. You can just tell. Now, some of the other players. Paulius Morauskas, Paulie M. I'm always generally a little skeptical of the international dudes who come in, mainly because we've seen him hyped before. Henry Vasar was supposed to come in and be a one-and-done type. That obviously didn't play out the way it is. Not even sure how good Henry is. Adama Ball was supposed to be really good. Adama Ball barely got off the bench here. Philly B, we know Philly B. But it does have a feel like Arizona hit on these two guys, though, in Morauskas and in Mount Krivas. It's got that feel mainly because they just look the part. And because here's the thing, like when Henry came in, you could tell that Henry was long, he had some skill, but Henry also just basketball didn't look like it came natural to him. For Krivas and Paulie M, it looks like it comes naturally to both of them. Paulie M's getting minutes this year, my friends. Not only is Paulie M getting minutes, Paulie M's getting quite a few minutes. And Arizona's going to be better for it because of that. We like Paulie M on this show. I was a little skeptical of him, but he sold me. But the guy that we really need to see out there, I believe, is KJ Lewis. I believe KJ Lewis is going to be too good to keep off the court this year. I think the recruiting services missed it big time when it comes to KJ. KJ, 6'4", 205 pounds, and just an absolute load, a monster. Athletically, he can do every single thing you want. And not only can he do every single thing you want, he can also essentially can put kind of thing a team on his back defensively. And then I think there's a lot of Jalen Clark, UCLA, a really good player from the last couple of years. Play a little bit as a freshman, become a rotational guy as a sophomore, and then you break out as a junior. I think that's what KJ Lewis is going to do. KJ's good. And again, I think that a lot of the recruiting services missed the boat on KJ, but that's okay because we will highlight that every step of the way. We like KJ Lewis on this show. Now, going forward then, what does this all mean then? I think a big part of this team is that there's going to be a lot of depth here. Depth that Arizona did not have these previous years or did not utilize, whatever the case may be. But there's also not going to be a lot of dead weight on this team either. There's not going to be a lot of dudes who can't play. Arizona Kirk Kriisa didn't stink, but he wasn't good. Arizona can do better than that. There's not going to be a lot of Kirk Kriisas out there. Ramey was a good 3-point shooter, but that was about it. He wasn't really what I think a lot of people build him as. This team, like I said, this team's got a variety of different things. They've got toughness, they got ball handling, they got guys that can get into the paint. They've just got a bunch of different qualities here that this previous year's team didn't have. And I think that's why so many are excited to watch this team and just kind of see how this unfolds, because there is a lot to be very intrigued about with this team. And again, got to give Tommy Lloyd a ton of kudos, because it would have been easy for Tommy Lloyd, like we talked about, to just say, no, going to keep doing what I'm doing. But it was fairly evident this team wasn't tough enough. And they didn't have enough ball handling these first couple of years. So what does he do? He goes out and gets toughness and ball handling. Not only does he get toughness and ball handling, he gets dudes who are able to, basically stress the defense in a way that Arizona hasn't had in the past. So I expect this to be Tommy Lloyd's best team. I really do. I think this is going to be a team that will not only they might not have the regular season record that the first year's team did, but I think that they're going to be much better equipped to be able to take it to the next level, though, come in and see a tournament time. And I think they're going to be a team that nobody is going to want to play tournament time, unlike this past year where I think a lot of teams were looking to play Arizona come tournament time. But that's the way it is. Either way, awesome offseason for Arizona basketball. So many good vibes. Tommy Lloyd gets it. And the roster construction and the overhaul has been something very impressive. All right. On that note, we're going to sign off. We'll be back with you tomorrow talking a little bit of Arizona football, a little bit of Arizona basketball. We're in day-by-day mode right now, as you all know. But really appreciate you all tuning in. We'll be back with you tomorrow. And thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day.